All right, welcome back, boys and girls, to another edition of Top 10 Toys. This week, I am looking at the Saga of Crystar, the Crystal Warrior. This is an oddball little toy line from back in the early 80s that I'm not sure a lot of people remember. It only had basically one run. I think there's 16 total pieces, if you're not counting the early variants of some of these things. But so most of them are going to get covered by this top 10 list. Now, this was released also by Remco, who I kind of touched on last week with that Karate Kid stuff. But this was released in late 1982, and it was followed up by a Marvel Comics series in 1983. That comic series only lasted about 11 issues. Had a couple of notable appearances from Marvel characters. I think Nightcrawler showed up for an issue. I think Doctor Strange. And then that last issue, 11, had an Alpha Flight appearance that you could see there. But this comic series actually had one notable issue, and that is issue 8 that everybody is out there hunting because of that skull that you can see down there at the bottom. And that skull became notable because it was used by Glenn Danzig in the logos for his band Danzig, and I think he also used it for Sam Hain as well. But that is what makes a lot of people seek out this Crystar issue 8 is because of the use of that skull, by Glenn Danzig. Pretty cool, pretty cool little tidbit and footnote to have there. Again, this is not a very large toy line. It's basically these crystal good guys. You got molten lava bad guys and a few wizards mixed in. And that was about the long and short of it. A couple of dragons and catapults here and there. And that's really what we got. And number 10, we have here the Crystal Warrior, the Magic of Crystal little battle set. This was included with one of the wizards. I'm probably going to butcher the name, but I think it's Ogeode or Ogeode. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, but there is one included with this packet. The high sale of this one was $65. And this one's coming in at number 10 because while number 9 is also 65, this one actually had a couple of sales, so the average between the two dropped it down a little bit because one of these, I think, sold for a bit less. So the average on the two sales was like $55. So that's why this guy comes in at number 10. While number 9 is also Ogeode in the package. But again, there were two sales of that, but both were at $65. So he ended up at number 9. I'm giving him the edge because of the two sales at $65 as opposed to that battle pack set that had the one cheaper sale to drag that average down. So there's our 9 and 10 picks are basically the same kind of figure, different outfits for them. And outside of that, you can see these had some pretty cool crystal weapons and these fun little it was almost like you could look through a little eyepiece and, it would make things a little bit wonky, like almost like a kaleidoscope, a little bit effect a bit. So that was a kind of fun toy to mix it up back in the day. Now, rolling on to number 8. Number 8, we have the Lava Dragon. Now, this one was sold as loose but complete. This is our first hit with the bad guys. As you can see here, they're like little molten rock guys. I mean, it's not the greatest sculpt there in that dragon. It looks like some sort of weird lizard, I guess. But they had a little rock guy, little lava guy, that could ride it with a little molten lava whip, I guess. I think the whole premise of this was like the good guys were order, the bad guys were chaos, and I guess crystal and lava are opposites. I don't know. And I don't know exactly how the wizards mixed in. I don't really remember. We're talking about 40 years ago at this point, basically. So we're pretty close to it. So my memory is very hazy. I did have most of these, but not all of them. But that loose and complete Lava Dragon sold for $75 at a high. So that is why he rolled in at number 8, which will take us to number 9, which is another wizard figure here, and this is Zardeth. Zardeth had a high sale of $80, but that one seemed to be outside the norm because the average on that one was actually only down to $40. But like I said, I was going with the high sale, so that one packaged high sale at $80 is what drove Zardeth to be our number 7 selection. Again, that one was sold new in package. You can see he had this little wizard robe, I guess. You can see he's a bad guy because he had the red crystal see-through thingy and his weird little mace because he had to have a weapon of some kind. Which takes us to number 6. And number 6, we're going to look at this Crystal Warrior Catapult set. This was an incomplete sale, so you can see it had a few of the things, had the figure, had the catapult, but if you look on at the packaged case, you can see it was missing the net. And the net is a piece that sells pretty well on its own, as well as it looks like the catapult balls might not have been included in that prior sale because I did not see them in the pictures. But there were 3 catapult balls there that came with it as well, and those can also sell for a few bucks. So again, this is one of those weird toy lines where sometimes the individual pieces could be almost as much as the figures themselves, and that's not always the case. But when the pieces are rare or odd, as they are in this case, you can see them commanding a premium. So that will take us to our top 5. And rolling in at number 5, we got another Crystal Warrior battle set, but this time the battle set, it features the warrior figure that looks similar to that catapult figure, but this time it looks like a little weapons case and little extra weapons and bits that you can put through. So this kind of the loose stuff that I'm talking about. To find these loose little weapons and pieces, they could get a little pricey because the only way to find some of these things are in packages, cases like this, and they're not always easily found because it's almost like an add-on. This warrior battle set, so this is not something that a lot of people would have picked up. But as you can see, there's a lot of little pieces that came with this thing, and this thing sold for 125 bucks in the package. So that's not too shabby for a figure like this. Because again, this is not a well-known toy line as far as I'm concerned. I mean, the people I've talked to and asked, they vaguely remember it until I show them pictures, and then it like kind of sparks in their heads. But oh yeah, I had 1 or 2 of those. It's like one of those oddball things you would get as a kid as a birthday present from a party, like just random toys that people would give you. Just people may not know you very well, and they just buy you a toy, and this was the stuff they could find on the shelves sometimes, some of this oddball stuff, and then you would get only 1 or 2 figures from this toy line because you got them as a gift from somebody you didn't know all that well, like a classmate or whatever. I don't know, 80s, different time for all of us. So moving on, number 4. Number 4 is the other catapult set, the Crystal Catapult set for the good guys here, and this thing sold loose for $200 and $250 at a high, and I think that was at an auction. And it came with most of the pieces. You see a couple of the catapult balls. Actually, maybe it's been all 3. Maybe it's just the 2. But it sold loose with most of the pieces there, as I said, for a little over 200 bucks. That's not too bad for, again, a toy line such as this, which it is immediately followed by number 3, which is the bad guys, the Lava Catapult, which, as you can see, is basically the same sort of model, just with some slight tweaks to make it more on the molten rock kind of side for the bad guys. This one was also loose, but sold for $215.50. But this one looks like it came with all 3 of the catapult balls, whereas the other set might have only come with the 2. So again, not too bad. Still loose, but over $200 puts it in at number 3, which is going to keep us rolling on here to our number 2 pick, which is the hero of the whole toy line here, which is Crystar, and this packaged figure, high sale of $250 that you can see boxed in there. He's got his sword, he's got the shield, he's got that cool helmet that comes off. You could take that helmet off, put it on your G.I. Joes, as I did when I was younger, and he's got, again, that little seeing eye piece, the little crystal that you could look through. And again, still packaged figure is a tall order for a toy line again like this. So $250 was the high sale for Crystar there. Not too bad. Not too bad. So, as you might guess, the number 1 pick in this line is the base. That's, again, those are usually the most expensive and not always the ones that are kept around. And this is the Crystal Castle that sold in here at number 1. And this was a decent size base, as things go. You could say these are smaller figures than, say, your Masters of the Universe, but it's got kind of a similar setup as Castle Grayskull in the sense of it's 2 floors. You got a front door. There's a lot of little bits and pieces, some ladders and things. This thing came packaged with quite a few things, weapons-wise, and I think there were a couple editions where there might be some variants into the colors of the weapons that were included, and like catapult balls and weapons racks. So a lot of the stuff that you could buy separately in those other weapons packs kind of came packaged here in with the castle. And finding one of these still with the box or in the box is not that easy to do, which is why this one came in at $305, incomplete, but it did have the box. And some of the pieces, even the floor, I believe, on this toy, it's cardboard. It's not like hard plastic, so a lot of this stuff breaks down, especially if you're relying on cardboard pieces to build the base or your battle set. So not an easy thing to last through, 30 plus years of time, especially not knowing how they were stored. But still, number one, $305. Not too bad for Crystar, the Crystal Warrior. Again, it's an interesting, oddball little toy line, but one that, still has some fans. There's a lot of people who remember it, like me. And again, with the Marvel Comics series, that's something that kind of brought it back to the maybe not the forefront, but if you had looked at the Marvel Secret Wars storyline from a few years back, Weird World actually had a whole Crystar world, I believe, in that miniseries, where some of the Crystar characters kind of were back introduced into Weird World. So, Marvel still owns the rights to it, I suppose, since they used it, and who knows where we'll ever see him again. But it's a tidbit of history. So if any of you all remember there and are interested in Crystar, here's your top 10 list for you. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Like and subscribe to Tales from the Flip Side, as well as my personal channel. And if you're interested in some honorable mention picks, I got a few other things from the line that I'm going to cover in the mid-credit scene over on my the video on my personal channel, so you can check that out there. But otherwise, I'll see you guys next time. Well, and that's really all I got for this toy line here. So if you're still interested in a few more things, I do have a few honorable mentions that I can go through right now. These things would have made the list, but they just didn't have the sales to support making the higher slots. So we're going to start in first with the dragons that I mentioned at the outset. That this series had a couple of dragons, and first up we have the Crystal Dragon, which sold for about $50 loose. Incomplete. It's basically just the dragon. It was missing the wings. It didn't have the rider or anything else. It was $50 just for the dragon itself, which is interesting because just the box alone for this dragon sold for $75. $75 just for the box. Yet the main piece of the toy inside was only $50. Again, and I believe a wing, just a single wing from this thing, also sold for like $25 or $30 as well. So you can see sometimes the pieces are worth more than the figures themselves. Just interesting. Definitely interesting. But that said, that was our first honorable mention, which will take us to our next one, which is one of the other good guy figures. This is Feldspar. He was almost like a little shorter, a little almost dwarfish type of character here. He had a little staff, and interesting little guy. He almost looks like a mix between the two, as he had almost like the little lava legs and a crystal top half. But he sold for about $60 in the package, so didn't quite make the list, but came close. Definitely came close. But Feldspar is another honorable mention for us to look at, as is Warbow, which is another guy that I do remember having. This guy was pretty cool. I don't know if it's just because it was green. He had an eye patch. He was on the shorter side. He had this pretty cool crossbow that I think I let some of my Secret Wars figures use instead of him, because it kind of fit their arm pretty well, from what I recall. And he had this little arrow bandolier too that went across the chest, and I'm sure that that thing wasn't easy to keep hold of because it didn't stay very well. So that is one of these pieces that also sells pretty well on its own, if you can find it. Because a lot of people look at it, they don't know what it is. It looks almost like a skirt that would go to some other figure, but no, it's this arrow bandolier or crossbow bandolier for Warbow here. And he had sold about a high of about $50 loose and complete, which, not too bad to, again, have all the pieces, which is not always easy to do. And then we get to the couple of the bad guys here. First one here, I got Magma Man, who sold, again, about $50 in the package with all his stuff, which is still kind of cool. I remember these guys. The lava guys were cooler to me than the crystal guys, just because they had a tougher look. Plus, you can use them in other, with your other toys to be whatever you needed them to be. I think he had a mace, and he had one of those little lava whips. So that was kind of cool. But in the box, in the box is about $50. And then the next one is the other bad guy that came in the set, and that was Moltar, who sold loose. And this one I kind of like. He had a lot of the studs all along his arms, a little bit tougher looking, a little bit bigger, and he again had a pretty cool axe. And he sold for about $50 loose for this guy, and I believe it was incomplete as well. And that was basically the toy line, apart from one more piece, which was just this. It looks like Zardeth in a battle pack that just had some bad guy weapons and little extra pieces. And this was the Spell, the Evil Wizard, but there were no sales, loose or otherwise, of this figure for me to report, so I couldn't add it to the list. But this is basically the last piece that goes to this entire toy line, so that's the whole run covered here. So if you're interested, that's what you're looking for. So Crystar, not too bad. A little flashback to the 80s there for those of you who might remember it. Again, not a lot of pieces, a lot of duplicate things where it's just figures reused. They never got a second run or a second series, and the comic only lasted 11 issues. So Crystar, a little footnote in our 80s history. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Please, again, like and subscribe to the channel. Like and subscribe to my channel as well as Tales from the Flip Side. And please throw out your suggestions. If you like what I'm doing, let me know. If you don't like what I'm doing, let me know as well, because I'll take your feedback and do what I can with it. So I'll check you guys next time.